Please welcome to the stage Markia Archuleta, Vice President, Oracle.
Good morning. Welcome to Oracle. I'm so excited that everyone is here on our campus, and I hope you enjoy the next couple days. My name is Markia Archuleta. I am the Vice President for Global Sales Operation for a business division in Oracle called Advanced Customer Services. And I am extremely delighted to be the person to welcome you to the breakfast this morning. I also am the executive sponsor for our Oracle Latino Alliance, HOLA. And I took that on a few years ago because I was inspired by attending a HITEC conference 4 years ago. I saw the energy and the passion and all our culture brought together. And that was back in the day when we did roll call. I just thought that was so special and unique. So, and I know everyone's disappointed. They're like, how do we do roll call anymore? Somehow we'll be creative in our technology world, so stay tuned. But as a part of being the executive leader for OLA, which is just one of several ERGs we have at Oracle, Oracle's been doing a phenomenal job on driving diversity and building out the ERG communities, and also very supportive on some of the key initiatives that we're driving for the OLA ERG here. So today we have a panel. I'm going to be participating on it, so I won't elaborate any more in detail about me personally. You'll get to know me in that. And I wanted to introduce Tony Diaz. He's a managing director at Accenture and also on the HITEC board. And thank you for hosting this morning. And let's have some fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Markia. I appreciate the introduction. Very excited to have this breakfast again. So it's been multiple years that Accenture has sponsored this breakfast with HITEC and with the sponsoring organizations for the summits. I wanted to start, though, today with a moment of silence. I think everyone has known in the past 10 and a half months, both Accenture and Oracle have lost their leaders. And I thought it'd be appropriate for this group, let's just spend 10 seconds, moment of silence in remembering those two great leaders. Thank you. So with that, everybody stand up. It's early, let's stand up. So, by virtue of the fact that you stand up, that means you've been at one of these breakfasts. So, as I count the numbers down and you get there, sit down, but keep standing if you've been to the ones I'm going. So if you've been to more than two, more than 5. And Nellie's just standing up because she's been to all of them. So how about more than 10? Yeah. So it's really interesting. So it'd be great to hear feedback, and we've gotten lots of feedback over the years about the breakfast. But it wouldn't be possible without our team at Accenture and with HITEC. So where's Viv and Susanna? Viv and Susanna, Carolina. So let's say thank you. So a couple, two more points. So I've been on the board for almost 6 years now. So the time has flown by. I've seen a lot of changes, both within Accenture, within the HITEC board, with all of our sponsoring organizations over that time. But one of the things I'm most proud of is as I leave, and there's another board member also leaving, Thaddeus, we're bringing in 2 women leaders to be on the HITEC board. So with that, now we need the real applause. Okay. You didn't know why you were clapping yet, but not only are we proud that Nellie and Maria Lensing will be on the board, but that means that our board has gotten to 50-50 gender parity. So that's what we really want to be proud of. And that's awesome, right? Just as an organization, Omar, G, from a leadership perspective, I know you both are very proud of that. So it's something for us to be thankful for. So with that, we're going to talk about the panel. I'm going to bring Nelly up, and she'll introduce the panelists. But today is going to be all about authenticity, and who better to kick this off than Nelly Barrero.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your board service. You've done great things for HITEC, so I appreciate that. So good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. How are you? Did you eat breakfast? All good? Life is good? Okay, cue up the salsa, the merengue. We're going to have a party. So I am going to bring up some amazing leaders to the stage, and we're going to talk about our culture. We're going to talk about how we're going to celebrate the greatness that we are. So why don't I start with bringing up Sylvia, if you could please come up and join us. And each panelist is going to talk a little bit about their background. So Sylvia Gomez, if you could have a seat over there, and then we're going to ask you to speak a little bit.
Of course.
And if we could bring Luz Esparza up. And if we could have Marquia back up on the stage, thank you. And while they're getting settled, thank you, Oracle, for hosting this event. We appreciate this, and I know on behalf of HITEC, which is an organization that I support immensely, we appreciate it. So we're going to have a seat, and we're going to start with Sylvia. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Good morning. I'm Sylvia Gomez. I'm from United Airlines. My background is my parents are from Mexico City. I am very passionate about teaching others and helping the next generation come up.
Thank you. Thank you. Luz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luz Esparza. I'm Managing Director with Accenture. I'm a first-generation Angelino, and I'm a mother of 3 children.
Marquia.
Hi, good morning. I mentioned earlier that I am a VP at our Advanced Customer Services team here at Oracle. I grew up with a Latino father and a very blonde German mother, and I instill everything about our fabulous culture of family and celebration. So I'm excited to talk about some of the questions that you were asking and share with you some of my personal experiences at work and at home.
Excellent. So before we dive into questions, I just want to share a couple of stats. We're just ending the celebration of Hispanic American Heritage Month. So I hope that all of you were involved in some of the celebrations that went on all over the country. There were a lot of stats that were floating around during Hispanic American Heritage Month, and I'm hoping that these are familiar to you. And if they aren't, then I say take note of this, because it's important for us to understand what our culture is doing. So we have a spending power, a buying power right now of $1.5 trillion. That's a whole lot of money we're putting into the economy. And when I talk about that stat, I like to also talk about, are we very aware and intentional about how we're choosing to align that spending power? So as you're looking at organizations, or as you're looking at brands that you're buying and you're supporting, are they aligned to what speaks to our culture? Are they showcasing us with a self-image that's important to us? And are they also focused on the aspirations we have as a community? So when I think about this, I think about it from the perspective of, if I have this money to spend, am I aligning it to an organization and a brand that has my better interests in hearts and minds as well? So I want you to think about, as you think about the spending power you all have in this room. We're 60 million strong in the US, and I mean strong. So when we think about that from the perspective of representation, it's 18% right now. But the stat that really blew me away was that by 2058, we're going to be 82% higher as a population in this, in this country, right? So we're going to grow by 82%. So as we think about that, and as we think about what we're going to talk about here today, I want us to have a mind shift. I want us to think about our culture as a culture that brings a lot of value to everything we do. I know we always talk a lot about, the challenges that we face as a community and all these other things, but I want to flip the script on all that. I mean, if we have $1.5 trillion in spending money and buying power, it's time to flip the script around this, right? So let's talk about the value that we bring, how we show up with confidence, how we show up and claim the space that, by the way, we've earned. So with that, we're going to get started. You ready?
Ready.
All right, wonderful. So I'm going to start with you, Sylvia. You're a leader in this space, and you've done a lot of amazing things. You engage with team members, with peers all the time. How have you leveraged your culture to be able to reach the heights that you've reached today?
Great. So let me start by saying I come from a very close-knit family. And my parents didn't have a lot of money growing up, but my parents did spend a lot of time with us, with my brothers and I. And they taught us the value of family. And so there were my brothers and I, and so there were the 5 of us, but they taught us that family is more than just that nucleus, that there are other people that you bring together because they're related to you by blood, and others because you bring them because of love. And so I grew up knowing that the extended family was there, and every family has the people that spend a lot of time with you, and you build these very, very, very close connections. That's how I grew up. When I had a family of my own, we did the same thing with our boys. I have 2 boys, and we spent a lot of time with our boys teaching them the value of families. How do I take then and then leverage that at work? I have learned that in order to get to where I am today, in order to continue to grow, you have to build very tight working relationships with other people. The value that those relationships will provide you, not only to you, but to the work. Think about when you have something that you have to get done, when you have to go reach out to someone, and that person is your friend. That person is someone that you're very close to, and you can just pick up the phone and go talk to them. And that has been what I have used, these very close relationships. I think of the people that I work with, and many of them are here. I think of them as my family, my extended family that have come to me. And so that's how I have leveraged my culture, and I am here today because of all those connections.
That's excellent. It's almost like expand the definition of family, right?
Yes.
What's traditional versus what you bring in. So
Yes.
I love that. And HITEC, we're a big family, so that's all good. So that's a long, shameless plug for HITEC. That's all good.
That's okay.
So Luz, we're going to turn to you. We are, a community, our demographic that's growing rapidly. I just shared some of those numbers. What advice would you give to junior members, right, that are just, starting maybe in the executive level career, and as to how to really leverage parts of their culture and how to really show up in a work environment as someone that's going to contribute significantly? What advice would you give them?
I think the advice I would give is to be truly present. I think a lot of times, I know in my career, growing up within Latinx culture, I'm taught to respect my elders. I would wait for them to finish. And as a young executive, it took me a moment to really say, I do have an opinion, I have a point of view, and how to express that and not feel like, oh, I'm being disrespectful in some shape, way, or form, because it's contradictory to what my senior executive may be stating at the time. But I think, when I reflect on that, the part that really helped me through that was thinking, okay, what I bring to the table is very important, and I think it adds value to the conversation, and being able to go against that initial fear, and then having the positive feedback coming back saying, thank you for being part of the conversation. And so my overall advice is just be present and be part of the conversation, and know that what you have to bring to the table is a value and will be recognized.
Yeah, and I love that because it's about having that self-awareness and just shutting down that negative inner voice to say what I just shared at this table. I have a seat at the table, let me leverage it, and what I have to say is important and of value. So I love when you say important and value, because a lot of times we don't pause to really think about the value that we add, right? We question a lot of what we have just brought to the table. So thank you for that. Markia.
Yes.
Okay, so when you think about your amazing career as well, what is the best advice someone has ever given you throughout your journey? And it may be a couple, it may be one, but one that you feel really resonated with you and helped you continue to progress.
Oh, thank you for asking me that question. That's one of my favorites,
Oh,
actually.
good. I didn't know that.
We didn't talk in advance.
Yeah.
So the best advice I've ever received over and over again throughout my career has come from my husband. He is my personal coach. You know, a lot of people get personal coaches. He voluntarily became my personal coach. But no, in all seriousness, he's two things he's always told me, and I always have pushed back, but every time I follow that guidance, it's led me to good things. So first of all, don't take no for an answer. It's so easy to walk away when someone tells you no to something. So I have a new idea, no, not a good idea, and move on with the conversation. You know, don't brush it off, come back to it. You know, I want to make these changes. This is what we're thinking about doing. This is the vision that we have. You're getting a lot of negative no, 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 no's. It should inspire you to want to do it even more. And every time I've met with that no, I've stepped back, thought, how do I go back and represent this? And I was always successful in being able to do what I wanted to do, whether it was a reorg, whether it was implement a new system, whether it was changing a process pretty radically in order for the better good, which is hard for people to see. And, you know, also I'd say the same thing to our sons. I have 2 boys as well. You know, they get very discouraged without my oldest is 27, trying to seek a career. And the same thing, it's like, even when you get turned down for a job, don't take no for an answer. Go back. Tell them you're interested. Please keep me in mind. Follow up with them in a month or 2. Hello, just checking in. You know, the dynamics in the workforce change, and openings come about that you may not know about. So that's just the don't take no for an answer. The other one is ask for what you want. People are not mind readers. And that's the most intimidating thing, I think, for myself, was to be so forward and to say, this is what I want to my leaders when I want a promotion or when I want to take my responsibilities in a different direction, or when I want to hire a profile or a different type of person, different than what everybody's telling me I need to do. It's, you know, taking that, having the courage to at least speak up. And when you think about your own careers, and you have a lot of very seasoned people here in the room, so you probably can reflect on this in your own careers. And for those young members in the room that are just starting out your careers, you really need to tell your managers, tell your executive leaders what you're thinking and what you want. Don't assume that they know, and don't assume they have your best interests in mind. And I know that sounds terrible, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people. They just have a lot of other things to do. And when you're silent, they just assume you're good, and I'll take care of everybody else who's bringing the noise. Make noise.
So many things to unpack there, so thank you, because I mean, seriously, I'm like writing this down, that down. Well, first, have your son call me, that's number one, because you never know. And the other thing is, you know, you started with who your coach is, and that's your husband. And there's something so important about that, because selecting the right partner in your life makes such a huge difference, right? So it is, you know, someone's going to cheer you on and help you through the journey. So I hope that we all have experienced what you're experiencing, and that your partner is, you know, your biggest fan and your greatest coach. So
we rehearse.
Yeah.
We rehearse how to go back
awesome.
from the no and how to say what I want.
Yeah, that's amazing. And don't take no for the answer, and ask what you want. And when you share it, you know, people are not mind readers. We're just not, right? So you have to have that inner strength and courage to speak up. So thank you for sharing all of that. Sylvia, we're going to go back to you. And I'm actually going to read this question word by word, because I think this is such an important question. And it goes like this. Has there been a moment or moments when you felt keenly aware that your cultural background may have positioned you to devote more energy to demonstrate your value?
Wow, what a question. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel that my cultural background has actually helped me in my career. I come predisposed to build relationships and look at people from every walk of life and be able to build those connections. And so I would say, no, not my cultural background. However, as a woman in corporate America, I have had moments where I have to work harder than the rest of the population, where I have to be over-prepared, where I come and people underestimate what I can bring to the table because I'm a woman, not because I am of a Latin background. That it has never been the case, and I can share this experience that kind of highlights as a woman how in some cases I have been treated. And so this happened early on in my career. United decided that we were going to audit a system, and it was a revenue management system. We brought a set of consultants that came in, and they selected 3 people that were going to be leading from the United side. We were going to be leading the audit. And so I represented the business side. We had a man from technology and a man from R&D, and the 3 of us were the experts of the system. So we went to meet with the consultants. I'm not sure what the consultants expected. We walked in, we said hello, and there were 4 men in the room. And so they decided to explain to us the plan of how we were going to audit the system. So we said, okay, but you know, and everybody in this room knows, man or woman, you know when somebody is presenting to everybody else except you. Mm-hmm. And they're looking at the man, and they're looking at the man, and I am there, and they never once look at me. And so we continued, and I'm there, and I'm present, and I'm part of the conversation, and I know I'm the expert at what I have. I know it, they don't, but that's okay. And so we continue with the presentation, and at one point, they go through the order in which they're going to conduct the audit, and I say, no, that's not going to work. And it was not that it wasn't going to work, it was a sequencing error that they were making. And so they were, I mean, not to get too technical, but they were going to optimize before they could forecast. It had to be the other way. Yes, you have to forecast, and then you can optimize. And so I said to them, no, that's not going to work. First you have to forecast, and then you have to optimize. A man that wasn't even speaking looked at me and for the first time saw me and said, let me explain to you how this is going to work. It's like baking cookies. First you put the flour, and then you put the sugar. And I thought, wow. And so at that moment, right, it highlights that, no, it wasn't my cultural background. It wasn't that he didn't think I had the expertise. It was because I was a woman, and that was a talk down moment to me that I think we have seen. And so it's not about my culture. I think that has been my greatest advantage. It's the other side, about the woman side.
So thank you for sharing that. It is interesting because there was a lot of bias playing out there, right, in that situation. And when you said that the individuals were not looking at you, is not being acknowledged, being made to feel invisible, you now feel marginalized. It's just a horrible feeling, right? And sometimes people are very aware that they are, sort of behaving in a way that this is happening to the person. Sometimes they're just completely clueless, right? But kudos to you for having the courage and the strength to speak up in that moment, because a lot of people wouldn't. So I think that's fantastic. And for all those sitting here, right, we talk about the gender, differences, and we have a lot of allies sitting here in the room today. Yes. So as you think about this story, think about, the importance of eye contact and just acknowledging someone in the room. You may not have an immediate comfort level with that individual, no matter what difference they represent, but just a simple eye contact and acknowledgement goes a long way, and quite honestly, it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad that you shared that story, so thank you. How did it turn out? Did it all work out? Just gotta know the end. I just gotta know the end.
United passed the system with flying colors.
Okay, so there you go, yay. All right, wonderful. So listen, and Micah, we're gonna go to the 2 of you to talk about brand, because I am a firm believer that you have to be very intentional with creating your brand, and you have to be intentional with sustaining your brand. So can you talk to us a little bit about how have you defined your brand? And why is that so important? And I'll go either with that too.
Me first? Okay. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I always think of the brand thing. It seems sort of like a trendy thing. Everybody's got to have a personal brand. That always made me uncomfortable. But then I thought about this morning because I saw some of the questions that you were talking about. And for me, it's about authenticity and being an authentic leader. And that actually really comes easy for me because it's about being, very personal, very trustworthy, honest, and embracing. So I'm a very outgoing person, so that, I have that, and that's an advantage. I'm not an introvert, which actually being an extrovert like I am has been a disadvantage at sometimes. But I think just when my team is working with me, the constant positive feedback I get from them, not to brag, but that we just have such a good working relationship. And every single one of them are so diverse. And interestingly enough, I have 3 gentlemen that report directly to me in my leadership team, and they all are Latinos, but because one is based in Latin America and Brazil, and one is based in Madrid in Spain, and the other one is in Florida, and he's Venezuelan. So that wasn't I hired all of them, but I guess in the background I must have been thinking, this is the best community. So authenticity, being trustworthy and honest. There's nothing worse working for a leader who won't tell you what they're thinking. And sometimes honesty is not what people want to hear, but I think it's absolutely imperative so that there's no misunderstandings and that you don't come across as not caring and being somewhat fake about your role and what your intentions are. And then just, embracing. I pull people in. When that first question, I said, it's all about a party. And I say that kind of jokingly, but, I always try to make it a party because we love a party. Our culture loves to party. We love to celebrate. And you can take that into being a leader and into your brand. So we party with my leader. When we do quarterly reviews and we do webcasts, I say, always make sure you end with a celebration about who did some really rock star stuff. It's all about the numbers and I need you to do this, but in the end, you gotta party, you gotta celebrate. And with my direct reports, we get together and we work hard on initiatives and we work crazy, crazy hours, and when it's done, we celebrate and we have a party. And for the people beneath us, we reward them, we send out spot bonuses, we send out kudo emails, we do whatever we can to celebrate and have a party. So it's hard because we all have so much work to do.
So part of your brand is you're going to acknowledge people and you're going to party. So I think that's good too. So that's awesome. Luz, we work for the same organization. So I know a lot about your brand, and people that talk about, that Luz gets things done. She is a fair leader. So can you talk about your brand and how you've developed that brand?
I think if I had to define my brand, I define it as if there's a will, there's a way. So I do a lot of custom delivery.
Can you hear her? No. Is your mic? I don't think her mic is on.
Yeah, it is on, right? Yeah. Green mic.
Is it on? Yeah. Can we try again?
I'll enunciate.
No.
You guys hear me? Okay. So where there's a will, there's a way. I do a lot of custom delivery, custom solutions, using a lot of new technology that's not been proven to scale at enterprise levels. And so I'm always the problem solver. If there's a difficult challenge or someone says it can't be done, it fuels me to say it can be done. And I go and look across not only Accenture, but with our partners saying, okay, bring me solutions. Where have you done it? Let's put it together. Let's see if all the pieces work together or not, and then see how we can roll it out at an enterprise level, and then ultimately scale it and operate it. And I'd have to say, I think of how I grew up, especially my grandmother, because she had to raise 5 kids on her own, and she found every way she could to make sure her children didn't miss out on opportunities in Mexico. She sewed, she cooked. My mom sold raspados on the corner, after school. So, I really got from my parents this thing: if you really want it, you're going to find a way to get it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want it, then you'll make up every excuse you can think of for it not happening. And that is something definitely that I instill with even with my children today, especially my oldest, who's a daughter. She comes back, she's like, I can't do that. And I'm like, can't isn't a word in my vocabulary. She likes to show me in the dictionary that it is a word. But
Nope.
no one likes me today.
Here.
Hello?
All right, so you might want to start that all over again.
Oh, God.
No.
All right. If you really want it, you'll figure it out. And I think that is my brand within Accenture. When it comes to complex things and they want someone to find the solution and put it together, they'll definitely call me, and I get called into some of the bigger, more complex projects. But as I was saying, I try to pass that on to my children as well, especially with my oldest daughter. You know, when she comes to say, I can't do that, I'm like, it's because you don't want to. If you really wanted to, you would figure a way to put the pieces together and get it done. And she does. Like, when she sits down and starts to reflect on it, she's like, you know, you're right. If I really want this, you know, I'll get it done. And sometimes it could be a detriment to me, because then she comes back with her plan. And I'm like, oh, I guess we are doing this. You figured it out. I was hoping to sleep in tomorrow, but I guess that's not happening. But, you know, I think, like I said, I think it comes from my upbringing. My grandmother worked immensely hard to raise, you know, my mom and her 5 kids, and like I said, my parents worked the extra jobs just so they could get the education that they wanted, because it wasn't something that was easily available to them. So,
Thank you, Luz. I appreciate that. You know, it's interesting because as I was listening to the two of you speak, there's one thing you had in common, and that is that you started talking about your brand, but you immediately talked about the impact that it has on your teams. Like immediately, so that is that part of your brand, right? That you're very focused on how you're showing up for your teams, and it's clear that that's important to the two of you. So thank you for sharing that, because that's what came across very clear. Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question of the three of you, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. But this is a really important question, because I feel that we all have a responsibility to our community and to the next generation. And what I would like to hear from you is, what responsibility do you feel you have to further evolve our Latinx community and the next generation of leaders? So Sylvia, we'll start with you.
Yes? Okay. So I am very grateful to a lot of the people that have, along my career and along my journey, have helped me get to where I am today. I wouldn't be here had it not been for a lot of the men and women that have helped me get here today. And so my responsibility, and I feel it every day, is I have the responsibility to pay it forward. And so I believe in helping others. I believe that my experience and what I have gone through, great things have happened to me, and some things that have been challenges. It is my responsibility to share those with the next generation, with the people that are coming up, with the people that are joining our companies, that are joining us in not only joining United, but other people. It's our responsibility to help them, to bring them up, to teach them, to help them. I feel that I am where I am today because a lot of people took time to help me. They saw something in me, and what they saw in me, they were able to help me leverage that. And so I feel that it's my responsibility to then pay it forward.
Okay, good. Thank you. Luz.
for sharing. You know, when I thought of that question, the first thing I remembered was getting a very similar question. What was my drive to reach managing director within Accenture, which is its process all of its own for those of us who know. And when I got asked the question is, you know, when I reflect on it, it's because I wanted to be in a position of power and influence. And I realized with every step that I took on the executive ladder, I gained more influence and slowly gained more power to make a change. And so one of the last things that really put me, you know, across the line in my motivation to get to the next level was my desire to help others. I realized I had to get there in order to be able to assist the next generation as they move up and be able to have a say at the table. And that was really important to me. It kind of gave me that extra passionate push to make it through the various gauntlets for promotion. And that's something that I do carry forward now. Even today, I'm our HAERG lead for Southern California. I'm from Los Angeles. I also sit on the SoCal Leadership Council representing inclusion and diversity, and I do lead a lot of those initiatives from a metro perspective, and that really helps me pay it back to those and mentor others who are coming up and really take a special point to make sure that they understand there's leaders who look like them, who understand where they're coming from, and also to remind them that not every leader is going to have the same background as you, may not look like you, but there are leaders there who do support you. And I had to do, for a presentation, put those who were my sponsors and coaches that got me through my promotion process. And if I were to bring up that slide, it was 3 Caucasian males who took a point and interest in my career. And I'm always grateful for that. So I always think it's important to share that back with all of you who are looking to be your career mentors, and sponsors will come from many, many places. And so don't dismiss one just because they may not look like you.
That's excellent. Thank you. Markia.
Yep, thank you. Am I on? We went from one to the other.
Can you hear her? Okay. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I mentioned earlier when I was meeting and greeting people that a few years ago I went to my first HITEC. Before I went to the first HITEC, I actually went to a little smaller event, the Silicon Valley event that they hold at Stanford every year. And I was so inspired. And I thought, wow, I really haven't been doing my part to promote and to really bring along my culture in my everyday work world. I was focused on more like being a woman and trying to drive that success in that method. But what about the culture, and how many the Latinx do we have here within the Oracle community? And I attribute that to my colleagues on OLA, Juan Carlos Cabrera out there, thank you. He brought me to the Silicon Valley attending that, and after that he said, hey, we need an executive sponsor, what do you think? And I'm like, what's involved with that, you know? So, and I was like, you know, I don't know what's involved, but I'll absolutely do it. And so I've absolutely loved that. As a part of being the executive sponsor, I sponsor individuals throughout the company that are seeking to go to various events or participate in emerging leader programs and so forth. If their leadership can't afford to do it or isn't giving them the approvals they to do it, they come to me and we figure out a way to make it happen and to open up some small doors. The other thing that we're looking at doing now, we're piloting this in the Austin area, is a real mentor program within Oracle driven by OLA for our community specifically. And you would think we should have one already, and we don't, and so we're really excited about that. And there's several executives attending here for this conference and throughout the company that I've reached out to, and we've started to realize we're all from the same culture, and what can we do? So when we saw the proposal for the mentor program, it starts, you know, you want to get the top executives really supporting it. So I'm excited about that. And again, it's been fun. It's been a party. So it's been
And there
great.
goes that theme again. I love it. That's excellent. So before we get to the first question, I just want to sort of summarize this a little bit here because there were some really key nuggets. Sylvia, you know, you started with, first you recognize all those that were there for you and how you understood clearly you have to pay that forward, and you still do, right? So that's just an awesome awareness and recognition to have. Lucy, you talked about you wanted power and influence, right? So you knew what it was going to take to get there, and you have a recognition that others now aspire for that. So what's your role in helping them bring them along? And I love how you talked about the people going to get you there may not look like you, so be open to that. And Markia, I loved your transparency just now when you talked about the fact that you recognized you were very involved in the women's agenda, but not so much, right, in the Latinx agenda, and your ability to become aware of that and choose to action on that, and then become a sponsor. So I think those are 3 great points, right, because we all have this tremendous journey, and we have to be able to pause sometimes, be still, and think about, you know, where are we lining our energy, who we're acknowledging, who we're pulling up behind us. And I think all those 3 answers were simply amazing. So thank you. Thank you for that. Questions? Okay, we have one all the way back there. And we're going to wait for the microphone because we want to make sure everybody can hear it.
I think it works. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, good morning. My name is
morning.
Vinicius da Costa with Bank of America. My question is to Sylvia, and I'm still digesting the cookie situation. It was borderline offensive. So how did you manage to stay calm and collected instead of cursing and jumping over the table and grab the person?
Well, that's a little bit of my nature, right? I have learned, and again, right, this goes back to my culture. My father was a very respectful man. And so when we came to the table, we had to behave in a certain way. We had to come dressed, completely dressed to the table to have breakfast. And when you're a teenager, that's a little bit hard, but you come dressed. You sit at the table. You have a conversation. We never raised our voices in our house. My father was very strict about it. And so we talked to each other. We didn't have the mild manners, but we were very respectful and very polite. Right? And again, I think you bring yourself to the workplace, and you bring yourself to the workplace every day. And so when I go to work every day, that's who it is. That's who comes to work with me every day. I come with the respect and with the manners that were taught, right, to me. It doesn't mean that, right, I wasn't offended. It doesn't mean that my first instinct was not to get up and walk out. But I thought, no, because if I do that, you win, right? I went back after that session, and I explained to my boss what had happened, and my boss said to me, what would you like to do? And I said, I am going to go back, because if I get replaced, that person wins. And of course, it wasn't just that person, it was them. They get to win, and I then get to feel that they had an impact on me, and I'm not going to let that happen to them. And so I think that's part of who you are. You bring who you are and what you are to the workplace, and you do that every day.
Good. That's excellent. You know, it's those things that we learn in our early, childhood that carry forward. So
Absolutely.
I think that's wonderful. Another question. If not, I have to pick a table, pick a person. So I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I see it. Okay, great. And then we're going to...
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jose Mingrens with Fannie Mae. One question. It's a fact that women in IT, especially women in computer science, is abysmal, the numbers that we have. What, in your companies, what are strategies you can share with us you're utilizing to correct that problem?
Okay. Do you want to start with that, Luz? Some of the strategies, and then we could go down the line?
Yeah, there's multiple strategies that are in play. I think the one that
Can you
I'm
hear
close, am I better now? Hello. One of the ones that I'm closely monitoring, at least in the SoCal region, is in the state of California. We have great educational universities, Cal State, community colleges. We have a vast educational network, and I think it's important that we tap into all facets of the educational network and make sure that we are looking for top talent across the board, not only from a cultural Latinx perspective, but also from a gender. I think sometimes large corporations, we tend to focus on the top 25, the Stanfords, the Berkeleys, the UCLAs, the USCs. Great talent, no, but everyone else is also competing in those spaces, and I think sometimes we overlook the great talent that's sitting in a lot of our Cal State and community colleges. So we have an initiative in SoCal where we are reaching out to our community colleges, Cal States, setting up info sessions, and more importantly, educating the community as to what it means to be a consultant. One of the things that we did as part of our brainstorming is around the table, none of us knew what a consultant was as we were growing up. Right, we kind of fell upon it because we hit an info session in college. We all had very similar stories how we ended up in a consulting space, and I think it's important for us to educate others that there is career in consulting and what can that bring, since we're recruiting that. But I think that's one of the things that we've been doing, at least from a very local, regional perspective, to bring in talent.
Anybody else want to share some of the things that are going on in the organization?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think Oracle's in a unique situation in that a couple years or a few years ago, we decided to build the high school here, the Design Tech High School. And as a part of that, we have an outreach program that they come and, they're constantly, they as in the Oracle's inclusion and diversity, along with the high school, look for mentors and for those employees, particularly in the tech space, doing technical work here, to go over to the school to be working with them and to foster a greater interest in those particular fields. So not only is it just focused on the young women that are over there, but it is focused on diversity that's over there too. So I know myself, I've raised my hand and talked to my team about bringing in a couple high school students, and they're like, but we're not really technical. I said, well, it isn't all just to be about, I have to be an engineer. And I think that's one of the challenges for the young women looking at a college degree. It's very intimidating to say you want to be an engineer or a computer scientist, but you don't have to be in the technology world just because you're a computer scientist and an engineer. I know the numbers are very weak, but if you can come to a technology company and you start doing one thing and then the next thing, you're doing that. You can move into that space. We have our Oracle Women's Leadership Group. We have, once a quarter, they have a tech lunch. And I go, and I'm not technical, I'm business operations, but I go because they bring in the various speakers in Oracle development and all of the technology that we're selling and building, and they share, and I learn what they're talking about so that I understand. So you can participate in a lot of different ways.
I love that continuous learner. Always put yourself out there to learn. We had a question, I believe, there. Sorry. We're going to go there over here, and then we'll go there. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Claudia Francisco. You're all leaders in very large corporations. I'm just curious about what your experience has been dealing with company politics as women, and if you have any advice for some of us who are allergic to them.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sure
yes.
everybody has a story around that. Company politics, let's go. I love that question. All right, who's ready to start?
Let me go. No. It's not just Oracle. I have been at Oracle a long time, but it's everywhere, right? And I've never been really good at playing the politics game. I've always been, you know what, I'm about results. I keep my head down, I keep my team focused, and we get stuff done. And I'm the last person that knows anything about any company gossip that's going on. They always come to me and I'm like, what, really? But the politics exists, and so you can't ignore it. And that's where my husband's coaching has come in and said, you can't keep your blinders on and just pretend that what you're doing is people are trying to maneuver and to get to climb the ladder. As myself, I always thought I climbed the ladder by my results and that I would get recognized. It's that whole thing like, no, you've got to ask for it, you've got to be visible, you've got to be vocal, and you got to be assertive. So there are times I've dealt with individuals that I knew were trying to undermine me. I knew they were trying to make me look like I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't figure out why, because we were on the same team and we had the same goal. We were peers running different groups. And I finally had to pull the gentleman aside and have a very direct conversation with him about how I was feeling about the dynamics in the calls, in the meetings. And we had a really good conversation, and he was shocked, I think, that I actually called a spade a spade. And I think we are respectful, and we know we have the same agenda, and we are polite, and we joke, and so it's not easy, but it's always going to be there. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but taking on a hostile position will get you nowhere. Yeah.
That's true. Anybody else want to add?
Sure, I can talk about it. And so politics will exist and they exist everywhere. And so I think, one, you have to be aware of it. Two, you have to learn how to play, and you have to learn how to play the game the way it's played in your company or in your school and whatever you do. And you have to learn what works and what doesn't work. I would say You should get advice from others. You should have mentors that can help you navigate through the politics. You should never be afraid of them. The one thing that I would say is be very careful of gossip. Gossip can be not only hurtful, and you never want to have the reputation that you're the best gossiper in the world, that you have all the insights and that you can spread the gossip. I've been asked many times, how do you stop the gossip? And if you want to stop gossip, right, when somebody comes up to you and says, have you heard so-and-so is doing this? The best way to stop them is, and how are we going to help them? Right? And so if they come to you and they want to gossip about Mary, you look at them in the eye and you say, how are we going to help Mary? How are we going to help Mary? Which now it turns into, oh, wait, I was here to gossip. I wasn't here to get the help, right? And that diffuses the situation. You don't get involved into the Mary gossip and whether there's gossip or not, right? And you stand back and you're a little bit more respectful and you get treated in a little bit of a different way because that's not who you are. You're still going to play the politics. And playing the politics is great. You just have to be very careful how you navigate them. And so get a very strong mentor that has been there, that has done that, and can help you through. Because you have to engage in them.
Just anything you want to add quickly?
I think I would just remind everyone, ask questions. It goes to the mentor part. Learn the rules, and the rules change all the time. But once you have awareness of it, you're in a much better position, and just keep asking the questions and ask for what you want. I think one of the things I learned as going up the ladder is I wanted to have very clear direction as to what it meant to get promoted, what was the criteria, and I kept asking a lot of questions because I wanted to get a sense for it. And also raise your hand for any opportunity, especially if it allows you to grow your corporate network within your company. I think a lot of times we'll be like, well, I can do 9 of the 10 things, and you might be like, oh, I don't feel comfortable because I can't do the 10th. Just go ahead. You're gonna learn so much just by taking the opportunity to grow like that.
Excellent. Good. So while we get to the next question here.
Thank you. Deborah Mackey from Microsoft. You're all women, you're leaders, you're moms, you're wives, you also are active in the community. Do you have any tricks and best practices of what's working for you to be able to balance and to succeed in all of these areas?
I love it. The balance and integration question. Excellent.
Right.
Good.
Right.
Who wants to start with the
I
integration?
can start.
Yeah.
So the best advice that I got very early on in my career is, look, you can do a lot of things and you can be very good at a lot of things. You just can't do it all at the same time. And so when and that's how I have balanced my life and my career. When my children were young and I wanted to spend more time with them, I took a job that would allow me to go home every night at 5 o'clock. And when my children were in middle school, I then was able to go back to school and get an MBA. And when my children went to college and they needed less from me, I was able to take a more challenging role. And so you continue to grow, you continue to learn, and you continue to have it all. You just cannot have it at the same time. And so that would be my advice. You have to know, though, and you have to be disciplined to know, don't try to do too many things all at the same time, because that's where you end up cheating some people that really matter to you. Because the people that you end up cheating are your husband and your family members, not your work. Your work will always pull you in, and so be disciplined to know, right, a little at a time, because I will have it all, just not at the same time.
I think what I would add to that is do it with purpose. What she described is she took steps with purpose. Like when I got married, I didn't want to travel anymore. It was a step with purpose, and I knew what that meant. It just meant that it was going to take me longer to reach the next level. The type of opportunities I was going to have being staffed locally were different than if I was able to get on a plane, but it was a decision that I made. It wasn't a decision that was made on my behalf. And so that's what's important. As you think about your career and the longevity of it, make sure the decision is with purpose and it's made by you, not by your corporation or whoever you're working with. The second thing that I would add is it's about family. I go to the partner question. My husband is my cheerleader. He's also the person I bounce things off of. But it's a family event to be able to manage multiple schedules and what everybody's going. So make sure you have a good support system, whether it's your partner, your mom, the extended family. It's always good to have a good support system.
Thank you.
Right, right. And I'll just add that I'm the queen of multitasking. So add it on my plate, no problem. I'll, be the Cub Scout mom, I'll be the leader at work, I'll be the, person organizing the banquet for the sports end of year thing. And my husband's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You have a full-time job. And it's just me, right? And I laugh because my dad's actually flying in. I'm going to bring him to the reception tonight. And he always comes to visit and he says, oh, mijita, you exhaust me. You just move so fast and you do too many things. I don't know how you do it. But my family calls me on it when I'm doing too many things. So they say, you're not present, Mom. You're already multitasking on the next thing, and right now you're not present. And whoa, that's when I go, too many, something's got to give. Just keep it in the box where you can be present at all those things you're doing, because if you're not, people notice, and so you're doing all of those things for why.
That's excellent, because it's about purpose, it's about being present, it's about recognizing who you're impacting with your decisions. So we have time for one more question. Oh, I don't want to get in trouble. I think I saw you with your hand up, right? So Julissa, and we need a mic for you.
Hi, good morning. So my question is, have you ever had a perceived weakness that you've been able to turn that around and maybe develop it into a strength that could have helped you with a teammate, relationships at work, a program, something that you've been able to approach it differently and help you get ahead?
Good question. So we have time for one person to answer it. So a perceived weakness that you were aware of and you had to turn it around. Anybody want to talk about theirs?
I'll take it. So my perceived weakness is argumentative. Or people will say I'm very assertive. I like to say that I'm passionate. That's how I turn it around. And when I think it's the right way, I'm very passionate about the fact that it's the right way to do it. But I think how I was able kind of to turn that feedback was really having the experience. I was able to work internationally and worked for almost 2 years in Spain, where I was immersed in a very passionate work culture. So for those of you who have ever worked in Spain, every meeting is a heated discussion. And that's just how they conduct business. And it was a relief to finally realize that, oh, it's not unique to me. It's like, oh, people of my own peers. I felt so safe and warm.
You found your people.
I found my people. I was like, oh. Exactly. But it was time for me to return to the U.S. I wasn't planning to transfer and work in Spain at the time. So I remember my executive coming in. I'm packing to return back to the U.S. And he's like, Luce, you know that in the U.S. you can't do what you did here, right? And I was like, yeah, I know. He goes, but I want you to take the lessons and learn how to fashion or harness that passion into a constructive dialogue. Right, and so he worked me through some mentoring and coaching tips on how to turn my passion and have it be more of a constructive dialogue versus it coming off, the perception of me coming off as argumentative or assertive. And kind of goes back to my, if there's a will, there's a way. And so I learned that I don't have to argue the point to death. I can find other ways to still get my point across if I truly feel passionate about it, so.
Right.
So being flexible, right?
Flexible, yeah.
I think that's very important. So we've come to the end of this panel discussion. I want to thank the three of you. You were amazing. Thank you. Help me thank the panelists. Thank you. And thank you. Lots of great tips. I do hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us so early today. and for being here present at the HITEC event, because again, I think it's an amazing organization, and thank you for hosting us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
Nellie.